Hi friends, it's Coach Kel and hang on a second. All right, so welcome to the intro for the Autonomy 30-Day Challenge to Build Good Habits. After watching this, you're going to know the key science behind habits, the path to get them adopted, and you're going to have a friend that's doing the same thing right alongside you. And if you're new here, quick intro, welcome to Autonomy, my company and YouTube channel devoted to improving mental fitness and increasing quality of life. My purpose is not only to increase knowledge about ourselves, brains, and bodies, but also to help people integrate that knowledge into their lives. And that's what this challenge is a part of. Now, I wouldn't be a good coach if I didn't share the concepts with you and if I didn't have a plan. So let's do a little outline here of how this will go. First, knowledge. We'll cover some cool neuropsychological things about habits in our brains that are important, but also simple to understand. Second, tools and protocols. We'll cover the tracking, organization, and rules of the challenge. Third, the 30-day plan. We'll talk about how we'll use each day to get the habits adopted. And finally, homework. We'll cover a very small amount of necessary preparation. Easy enough, right? Cool. Let's go. To start off, I want to tell you a quick story, one that you might be familiar with. Once upon a time, young Coach Kel decides he needs to take a little better care of his health. So he purchases a gym membership, and he's really amped up and excited to start. So he sets a goal to at least moderately work out 5 times a week. And that's what he does. He starts at 5 days a week, and he really puts in the work. But then it drops to 4 days a week. Then 3 at kind of random times during the week. Then other things really seem to begin begging for his time and attention, like work projects and social functions. So before he knows it, boom! The haven't been to the gym in X days streak begins, which turns into haven't been to the gym in X weeks and maybe even months. The monthly fee no longer makes sense, so he decides to finally cancel the gym membership because he can't seem to make himself go. All while thinking, what happened here? It was so easy to go before. Eventually, his health goes back to where it was, and the story ends right where it began, with dissatisfaction about his current state and an urge to purchase another gym membership. The cycle then repeats in a tale as old as time. What's he supposed to do? Well, I'm happy to say that young Coach Kel's very typical approach to building a gym habit has a couple of things that can be drastically improved. To explain how, let's get into a little bit of the neuroscience behind habits themselves. To begin, there are a couple of parts of our brain that are the most involved with habits, called the basal ganglia and dorsolateral striatum. And don't worry, there's no quiz. I just think different regions of our brains have really cool names. Both of them are near the sort of center of our brains, and each does something that's very key to habitual behaviors. The basal ganglia serve a lot of different functions, and one of them is like a traffic signal for actions. Like green means go or execute an action, and red means don't go or suppress an action. The dorsolateral striatum, which is a subdivision of the basal ganglia, helps associate certain actions with an overall sequenced behavior. Like, to eat some of this food in front of me, I have to pick up the fork. Picking up the fork is a part of the overall procedure of eating. And indeed, our brains are very procedural. They love to follow a set of steps that they're familiar with. We know this feeling. It's easy to, say, get in a car and start driving once we've done it hundreds of times. Neuroscientists have studied this, and by observing our brains, they actually discovered the most important steps of an habitual behavior. Specifically, the first step and the last step of a habit really seem to light up the dorsolateral striatum as it associates the actions of an overall habit. They further found that once that familiar first step has happened, the basal ganglia pick up on that and then start to change many of the traffic signals in our brains from red to green. So we start executing the actions easily and with very little friction. Remember that word for later. So this is a very important general point. Our brains handle habitual sequenced behaviors as a specific start, a bunch of things in the middle that happen pretty easily, and a specific end. And this is where Coach Kel fell into a trap. He didn't know it, but he was approaching workout habits the hard way. In his mind, the first step of satisfying the goal of get a workout done was lifting the first weight. And it's tough to blame him for that because, well, that seems pretty intuitive. But here is where we will use the science to do a huge favor for ourselves. If we adjust what we believe is the start and end of the process, then we can deliberately engage the bracketing function of our brains and put any behavior we want in the green light section. Here's what I mean. Let's go back to young Coach Kel, and we're going to tell him, Hey, instead of consciously thinking that executing the workout habit starts by lifting the first weight at the gym, we want you to consider the workout habit started at a much earlier and easier point. When you put your gym shoes on at home, what does this do? It engages the task bracketing function of the dorsolateral striatum much earlier, and the basal ganglia follow suit by starting to change the follow-on mental traffic signals to green. Think about it. Putting your shoes on is an easy and required step of getting a workout done at the gym. Young Coach Kel didn't picture it as part of the workout though, so the thought of the gym workout existed separately. So the friction of going to the gym remained high. If he deliberately makes the gym shoes the first step in the workout process, the friction that kept him from going in the later weeks will be relatively weaker in the moment. This can really make the difference between the times that we do the good habit or don't. It usually comes down to how many of our mental traffic signals are green versus red. Okay, so we've got the beginning bracket. Now let's address the ending bracket. To really help him clearly mentally highlight the habit, we'll next tell young Coach Kel, okay, after your workout, just make sure you have some type of solid symbolic ending behavior, like drinking a recovery shake, and when you do, think to yourself, boom, successful gym habit execution. This structure sets up the final step as a dopamine trigger that our subconscious mind does not expect, engaging something called reward prediction error, which is an extremely powerful factor in determining behaviors that we repeat. The dorsolateral striatum picks up on this and strengthens the associations of gym shoes and recovery shakes to the action that we wanted all along, getting a workout done. This will further reduce the friction of the workout habit in the moment. To wrap up this long intro, keep in mind here, this is not a hack. This is how our brains work. We are simply consciously leveraging what nature put in place for us to keep us alive over thousands of years. And real quick, for a little incentive from me, there are even more ways to leverage our brain's natural functions to reinforce habits, but you'll have to wait for the 1-week milestone for that. However, I promise, if you stick with me up to that point, I will reveal those to you. All right, that's a good chunk of knowledge. Please go back over it if you need to, and thanks for sticking with me for this long. When you're ready, let's talk tools and protocols. For tools, this part's easy. We're going to use a simple spreadsheet to track the progress of our first habit adoption. Here's what it looks like. All you have to do is, in the top left, enter the date that you're starting and the habit that you want to adopt. Then, any day you complete the full bracketed habit execution, put an X down. There's also a download link in the description if you want to pick this one up, but feel free to make your own or even just use a paper calendar. I will also keep my own tracker up under that link live and update it with you as I go. You might also notice there's an adoption section and a testing section. We'll talk about the testing section once we get closer to the date. For now, just pay attention to the adoption section. Now let's cover some quick but important points on the protocols of this 30-day challenge. The most important point first. Perfection is not the goal. The point is to leverage the science to build and reinforce healthy behaviors as much as possible. So the only thing between you and the habits you want are time and repetition. Perfection is not the goal. Also, make sure to build in the proper rest. For example, my habit will be a gym habit, and I will absolutely be utilizing rest days. We're here to adopt good habits, not burn ourselves out. So let's set some reasonable goals. Next, the point of sharing my tracker with you is not so you can compare how you're doing. For our purposes of increasing mental health, the competition will only ever be with ourselves, not each other. I'm putting my sheet up so you can feel like I'm going on the journey with you, because I am. Whatever your results are, be okay with them and use them as a guide for what to do next. Nothing more, nothing less. Next, and this one's important, if you miss a day, let it go completely. Do not punish yourself for it, and do not attempt to make it up on another day. It's not about nailing the habit 26 out of 30 days or whatever. It's about making the habit easier and easier to execute on any single day, and also assessing how strong the habit is based on how many successful executions we performed over time. Last protocol point here. I strongly recommend placing the habit execution in the general part of the day that we naturally have the most motivational energy. For most of us, myself included, that means in the morning, but everyone's a little different. In any case, successful bracketed habit executions are what we want. Working against our natural individual energy amounts just lengthens the time for habit adoption. And I have to say this part, so let's get it out of the way. You are the sole steward of your choices, and I accept no responsibility for how you use this 30-day challenge or any outcome of it. Just be careful with yourselves. All right, finally, here's how we'll use our days and how I'll join alongside you on the challenge. To provide as much support and presence as possible, I'll be posting a quick video every day of the challenge from my own perspective. These will go up around 6 a.m. London time each day as I start my habit. And I'll update my own spreadsheet as I go so you can see exactly where I'm at. Weekdays and weekends will have their own flavor, and here's how that looks. Monday is the start of the challenge, and we'll treat each weekday as a regular habit day. Saturdays will also be a normal habit day, but we'll also cover the week behind us. And I may even do these live if there's enough interest, because it would be really cool to chat with everyone in real time, depending on the time zones. On Sundays, I'll leave it up to you if you want to treat it as a normal habit day, but like I promised, I'll add another knowledge layer and talk about how to apply that to the week ahead. And if you have a question at any point, simply comment it into the latest video and I will answer it in the next one. Okay, so what all did we learn? We learned the two parts of our brain most involved in habits. We learned that our brain structures habits as a bracketed goal with a first step, a bunch of middle steps that include the goal, and a last step. And we learned that we can deliberately choose the first and the last step and put whichever goal we want in between. And lastly, the homework. It's very easy. All you need to do is download the spreadsheet or set up your own calendar, choose a habit that you want to adopt, and then think of what the first step of that habit really is. If you're going to use the gym like me, it could be put my shoes on. If it's piano practice, it could be pull out the chair in front of the piano. The last piece is to think of what the symbolic end task will be for your habit. This can be anything. Just make sure it's a distinct thing that will solidly end the successful habit execution. Mine will be drink my recovery shake. Once you have those items, you are ready for day one. Take another look at this video if you need to, and make sure everything's ready to start on Monday. Thank you so much for watching up to this point, and I look forward to going on this journey with you. Enjoy the weekend, and I will see you on day one.